Okay, yeah, no intro gag, but I mean, what can I honestly say? What jokes can I make that I won't already be putting into the video at some goddamn point? Let's just fly into it. Not really going into the full history of the series yet, so we'll start here. Prince of Persia 2: The Shadow and the Flame came out in 1993, and after that, Jordan Mechner did a couple of things, and then in 1996 began brainstorming the next title in the series. Development went into full swing in 97, and Broderbund, the company behind Pop 2, was purchased by the Learning Company, which was then purchased by Mattel Interactive, a move which kind of merged the first two. Some more shenanigans happened, and it feels a bit more Shell Company-ish at this point, but the overall gist is that the game is brought to us by Barbie and her subsidiaries. Mechner was a creative consultant and did some of the writing, but overall didn't have that big of a say. Are we good so far? The story behind its creation is short, but it's incredibly convoluted to the point that even after pulling as much research as I could out of literally everything but the horse's mouth itself, that was the best I could surmise. Broader point is Prince of Persia 3D released on the home computer systems in September of 1999, and it was an absolute piece of shit. I started these shenanigans under the impression it ran on Windows 10, and guess what? It does not. And even then, pulling it through the jank box risks its DRM destroying the Windows install. But overall, it's generally looked upon as a pretty bad game, if not at least the worst version of the game, as in April of 2000, a Dreamcast port was announced, and you're goddamn right that's the version we're looking at today. For some reason, the port was retitled and received its official release on November 21st of the same year. In this time, a PlayStation port was being worked on, with changes to appeal to a more action-oriented audience, but it was shit-canned pretty quickly so as to focus on the Dreamcast release, and don't you worry, we will talk about how fucked of a move that was in its due course. But for now, this is Prince of Persia 3D, retitled and re-released on Dreamcast as Prince of Persia: Arabian Nights. It is, without a doubt, Prince of Persia, and that means you've been betrayed.
Everybody betrayed me. I fed up with this world.
The princess has been kidnapped, and you have to jump and stab your way to unfucking your situation. We'll get into the story in its ridiculously due course. Just put a nice little post-it note on it, cause you're gonna want to see this shit. Originally titled Prince of Persia 3, as it's the third official title in the series, they decided it was time to jump to 3D, and thus the title also jumped on that D. The translation is overall pretty solid, but it's got more hiccups than... I don't actually have a joke for this. Huh. Moving on. If you are familiar with the first two titles, it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect correctly translated into the new dimension. If you're not, well, buckle in, cause here the fuck we go. The main mechanics of the game revolve around the prince's momentum. He doesn't stop on a dime, but it's also not so floaty as to feel out of your control. It's really one of the first physics-based platformers, and that remains true here. Generally, 1 or 2 steps are taken after each jump based on whether you're running or had a pretty far distance to go. Sure, this will screw you up in the early minutes, but you'll pick up on it rather quickly. Overall, it's nothing too complicated or bullshit, but there is plenty of the latter to come. The first 2 games were 2D, and more about solving a trap-filled maze to reach your objective, but now the game is broken down into smaller levels, with a series of navigation puzzles to solve and traps to avoid along the way, and for the most part, I'm gonna use the word translate for the 85th fucking time, it translates very well, quite phenomenally even. It's solid, and it feels like just the first 2 titles, now with that extra axis. Great! But then here comes the pure jank, look out, it's It's coming down the tracks. Get off the tracks. Here comes the jank train. Yes, the first title required a wee bit of trial and error and even a handful of blind jumps to make that trial and error a pain in the ass. And now we're going to go ahead and dial it up to about 20. You're not just dealing with blind jumps, but also mechanics that struggle to make sense to the player, like being introduced to a jump rune that does exactly what you think it does and forces you to learn how to use it mid-level with no save points between, blindly hurling yourself over an insta-death pit. It gets bad. Just downright bad. Trial and error becomes trial, instantly die, spend the next 10 minutes redoing all that janky platforming just so you can try your ill-informed jump all over again, lather, rinse, turn off shower, exit still covered in soap, walk out to the greenhouse, put the barrel in your mouth, pull the trigger, repeat. And let's get a little honest here, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't technically play this on the Dreamcast, and it's a really good thing I didn't because I never would have finished it if I had gone that route. Slap that footage of me doing the same jump over and over and again right on up there, why don't ya? Yeah, this is kind of a massive problem, and you gotta do like 3 of these jumps, and they only get more blind as you go. Take a superpowered running leap over this pit at the exact right angle from the exact correct pixel. Fail, and do a huge section of the level all over again. Succeed? Do it again with a worse angle. Then position yourself in the exact correct position, leap straight up while holding the grab button, and no, using free look will in no way help you figure out what to do or where to go. It's bad. 100% it's fucking bad. The early levels, which feature more maze-like designs, are absolutely fun, and figuring them out is no trouble as long as you're willing to think. But by roughly the halfway point, it's just one problem to impede the player after another in a manner that doesn't just roadblock them, but forces them to drive 30 miles back down the highway to another roadblock. I was really disappointed when these jumps started showing up because despite its jank, it's actually really fun and inventive. It didn't just feel like the old games, I was starting to see the next step in evolution from OG to Sands of Time. And then I spent 30 minutes on a single jump. And that 30 minutes was with save states. Yeah! I had to play on a thing that YouTube corporate constantly shits themselves over. And it was great. It made that shit semi-tolerable, but semi-tolerable is still under the umbrella of being a broken bucket of fuck. Later levels also get incredibly lengthy with multiple blind insta-kill jumps strung together. The through-line experience is genuinely depressing. So let's talk about that combat. It's exactly what Prince of Persia was. Kinda mashy, maybe a little block reactions, the end. Except that it's also kind of fucking broken. Enemies will get a free attack, which then for some reason grants them 3 more free hits while the game completely rejects your block inputs. There are also health upgrades, but they're mostly worthless as the health potions they spam you with don't really fucking matter. You're gonna spend most of the game with only 1.5 vials full. Every time you get to full, the next combat will eat through everything. And I mean fucking everything. And the game, as far as I can tell, kinda does it on purpose because they'll stop just short of killing you. You wanna play this little shitfest? You wanna engage with the combat? Here's a trick. Just quickly mash block and then one of the 3 directional attacks. No direction matters more than the others. They will block or they won't. There's no point to them. Just do that. Keep mashing it. You'll have as much success as trying to be reactionary and getting into parry battles. But why, though? Why does mashing work just as well as playing intelligently? Well, because the game just gives them free hits. You don't plague the combat based on sight, as hitboxes aren't really tied to the animations. So you play it based on sound. Did you block or get hit? Did they block? That means they're going to counterattack. Just mash, block, attack, win. The game even has special hidden moves. Press the corresponding movement direction with its matching attack and you'll get a special move. Horizontal moves give you spin attacks. Forward gives you a running attack. They don't do more damage. If the enemy blocks the spin attack, they will always get a free hit, and you can't block until you stop spinning, and they can attack as soon as they block the hit. And the running attack will always miss. Always. Sword went straight through the guy. He wasn't blocking. No fucking damage. The PC version also appears to have a feint function that if it exists in the Dreamcast version, I couldn't fucking figure it out, and also by the manual, hints that somehow you could acquire more weapons. You get multiple swords in the game, but if you pick up an opponent's dagger and staves like the manual says in the PC does, I never figured out. You do, however, get a bow with a couple special arrows for bypassing an encounter or two. Otherwise, don't really try to use it for anything other than the puzzle solving, and here's why. There's a tutorial moment, and it just might be one of the best tutorializations I have ever seen in a fucking game. Bring it up! You need a sword, but you drop into this big empty room with a guard. He draws and starts advancing on you. Your only option is this little hallway. Run in, get hit by a trap. Well, what the fuck do you do? Well, actually, it was kind of obvious, because you can see it right there. Before the trap hits you, you see this bloodstain on the ground and the trap's model on the wall. Drop in, run into hallway, stop, now shit's starting to get tense, you have to crouch, and this takes time and you can't move while doing it. But, while your heart is pounding in your stupid fuckboy ears, you also hear the guard put his sword away and his health bar disappears. Just like the old games, you can avoid most combat, and this game practically holds your hand to teach you this without ever throwing up a single text box or having someone sit there and tell you. Having to tell the player makes it easier for them to forget, but putting the player in a situation where they are forced to figure that fact out for themselves ingrains it into their mind for the entirety of the game. It's fucking genius! It's lost knowledge! I love it! And I really fucking hate that it's in this absolute trash fire. Probably the worst of it, and the reason a PlayStation port would have been nice with the changes they were planning, is because the Dreamcast has only one stick and the PC version doesn't have fucking mouse look. It was $19.99 for the PC port. Mouse look had long since become some form of standard, and for 3D platforming action, a second stick to look around was becoming necessary. We were what, 3 Tomb Raider titles and Mario 64 in by this point, and we're still dealing with dodgy tank controls and having to sit in place just to look around? Yeah, there's issues when it comes to grasping changes in the medium that were arriving at the time. Say what you want about Perfect Dark and The World Is Not Enough, but they at least had dual controller options in their settings. Here, we have a more powerful console and system, but on PC, none of the tools at the player's disposal are utilized, and on said more powerful console than the PlayStation, we used a weaker, inefficient control scheme that just gets worse when you add in having to come to a complete stop before crouching or grabbing and pulling. It didn't just age poorly in many areas, even at the time, these facets were becoming quickly anachronistic. This game is also really fucking ugly! It's overly busy at times, floor traps are completely invisible even on the high-def monitor, so you know it was way worse on a CRT, and switches will blend in with the wall entirely. Early stuff with more simple designs are beautiful and hold up really well to this day, but again, around the halfway point, they start to go nuts, giving everything bright colors and patterns that just repeat over and over and over again and just blast you in your fucking eyes. Just looking at some of the levels gave me a headache. It's a goddamn shame. Everything follows this pattern that, like, at some point, maybe when Mattel bought them, they didn't just change anything in the early game, just kind of finished building it with the rest of Der Fuhrer Barbie glaring over their shoulder, demanding everything be pastels in blue and gold. I fucking hate it. But that story sure is something. Okay, it's simple. We start off with the Sultan visiting his brother, and this bitch with the tightest abs is doing her Middle Eastern sex dance thing. Prince is getting kinda pissy, and Booby Lady starts murdering Body. Never trust a lady with abs tighter than a Schleg lock. Turns out, the princess was supposed to marry Uncle's son. Okay, you know it's a little weird, but it's 19th century royalty, and a deal's a deal, and if Sultan did bad by his brother, maybe a guard or two has to die. So Prince gets thrown in jail, yada yada yada. Escape, reach tower where Sultan and brother are, and they're having a chat. Sultan fairly comes to the conclusion that his word is his word, and he owes his daughter to his brother's son. Okay, you know what? I'm done saying that. That feels a little too anime for me, and I'm just gonna have to ignore it for a moment, but that's it. Prince gotta lose his wife because arranged marriages and promise to his brother. He's gotta do the right thing, he gave his word to his family, and you know what Vin Diesel says about family.
Head shark!
You thought the joke was gonna be different, but you see, that's a meme. Memes come and go. They're temporal. By going the direction that I did, I not only subverted your expectations, but made a joke that's timeless by tying it to my content, rather than the other way around. I then went on to ruin it all by stopping the video to explain this.
Rocky Balboa action.
Grandfather?
Your dad wasn't a shark.
Do you really think anyone watching this knows the plot to Street Sharks?
Good point. So that's it, right? That's the end. Prince lost his wife. She gets to go marry her The other guy's son? The law is upstood and everything's fine. Sure, those guards leave a couple orphans behind, but what's right is right. Bad guy won. Game over. And then everyone just completely, collectively loses their fucking minds and the pure insanity starts. Not content to have gotten what he was promised, Uncle decides Prince's hat is stupid and his eyebrows are fucked, and he's gotta die. So what does he do? He just starts chucking knives. Sultan decides, fuck this shit, I'm out, and steps in the way, taking a good stabbing instead. Now dying, his word is no longer enforceable, and Prince is free to try and save the princess again. Moving on, Uncle's son has kidnapped Princess. She learned a short while ago that he's... Oh my fucking god! He's the goddamn Rakshasa. Look at this motherfucker. He's a goddamn tiger. And this bitch fucking rejects him. Look at him, you stupid skank. He's a cuddly little tiger. And he's got a Mr. Universe body. And he's got Middle Eastern oil baron money. Why are you rejecting this dude? Look at her. She's got a pure bimbo body. And I know bimbos love two things. Big cats and money. Oh, I was already married. I don't love you, bitch! You know what you will love? 60-inch chest, 28-inch pythons, fucking tiger! And I know he's packing that good schmeat. Who needs love? He's got money! You know what you're gonna love? You're gonna love him slamming that fucking foot-long coney into your crotch on the bow of a yacht off the coast of the fucking Caribbean. Tell me you won't love that shit. Fucking tell me. Dare you. So things don't go so well because somebody is just refusing to see reason, and Tiger King has to escape in a fucking dirigible. Well, that shit doesn't go so well either, and frankly, I don't quite remember exactly what happens, but now he's riding a Lamasu, and the prince is like, oh no, this bitch sinking from the sky, and he stole my bitch. What do? Does the prince A, fashion a parachute, B, find another Lamasu, maybe just chilling out in the cargo hold, or C, hurl himself bodily into space in an attempt to reach them thousands of feet in the air? I'll wait while you take your guess. Time's up. Roll the footage. No, bitch, no. Just trust me, you're better off without him. This is the right way for things to go. And this is it. She's grieving. You're a fucking heart surgeon doctor with huge pecs and a rippling cock. All you gotta do is seal the deal. Hey baby, I know shit got wild, but it wasn't supposed to go down like that. Figured we'd have an epic battle, and then we'd all get together at Christmas and have a laugh at this. Hurling himself into a multi-thousand-foot plummet-style death wasn't what I had hoped for him, but I think if you just scratch behind my ears and we talk about it, I think we can work past this. Nope! This deal was in the fucking bag, but fucking idiot comes in all Disneyville and fucks it all up and gets his hand cut off for it. But it's okay, cause remember who he is, and we're in anime hours, which means by the next episode, he has a robo hand. Remember when I said everyone goes batshit insane? Yeah, they're fucking idiots. Dude had this shit nailed down, fucks it up. Bitch just watched her retard husband jump to his fucking death thinking he could fly, doesn't rethink her life decisions. Uncle had the win, just starts chucking knives. Brother didn't keep his word, crazy bitch with tight ass murdered a bunch of people. All this could have been avoided if anybody just took 2 seconds to think their decisions through. I'll miss you, Professor Fluffles. You were the only likable character. Oh, the video's not over yet. Quite a ride of pure madness, and yes, this is a direct sequel to Prince of Persia 2, and there's an absolute fuckload of extra story in this little bad boy. Oh, this. Well, you see, children, long ago when dinosaurs walked the earth and people used them as excavators, game developers put something into their games releases called effort. I know, it's a 2-syllable word, 6 letters, E-F-F-O-R-T, effort. With that effort came little instruction booklets. These had all sorts of fun flavorings. Art, extra story shit, but most importantly, they told you everything about the game. But then the dark times came and devs and publishers learned that you could actually inflate a game's runtime by stopping the player and forcing them to read instructions every 4 goddamn minutes, and then they wouldn't have to print a booklet. Then, since that bit of effort was no longer needed, they just decided physical copies were too fucking inconvenient for them. Where was I? Oh yeah, the manual! It's packed with the plot synopsis portion you don't get in the cutscenes, as well as a breakdown of the prince's other adventures. Pure effort and care, a better time when devs and publishers did more to give the customer more bang for their buck. This was called fostering a relationship. Now, you're really just a wallet. But hey, that out of the way, the soundtrack is a fucking slapper. It doesn't have tracks per level, instead picks one to play every time you load a save. It's atmospheric, and it's nothing super special, but it fits the theming, and you can see how it would later inspire the Sands of Time trilogy. It is, for the most part, pure goddamn insanity. From a game that's barely playable on PC to a game that's awesome as shit but slowly becomes absolutely intolerable on Dreamcast, it's one I don't really wish I played earlier, but I certainly wish more people talked about today, cause well, there's really a lot of shit going on here. Amazing ideas that are executed perfectly, a story of pure insanity, great designs and soundtrack, and it all just gets buried by the halfway point with all the bad design decisions. It's genuinely a trip, and it's incredibly fun at times, but it's objectively trash, and now it makes all the sense in the world why a pristine condition PC big box went for $5 whole. I'm the TheNecroswanson, and maybe a bit of personal bias played a big part in this video.